This is the story of a city located in the heart of the Belgian Ardennes, glorifying the province of Luxembourg, a corner of Belgium where motor racing was born from the famous Circuit des Ardennes, which was to be succeeded by Spa-Francorchamps, a region that would then become somewhat forgotten on the international motorsport scene. Until the day Pierre Delettre, the emblematic organizer of the Boucles de Spa, decided in 2006 to abandon the modern rally in favour of a historical competition. The legend Boucles de Spa was born, becoming the legend Boucles at Bastogne in 2015, a salutary move. It took a mere 4 years to transform a solid event into one that has become a must, with international scope, hosting a field of more than 300 cars from yesterday and years gone by. Having made history as a setting for the bloody Battle of the Bulge, a major episode of the Second World War, Bastogne is now also synonymous with a historic rally, a gathering place for fans of old-timers, a landmark for international drivers, and a few days before its traditional popular carnival, the Cité du Bastogne becomes a focal point where tens of thousands of rally fans, full of nostalgia, looking for entertainment and atmosphere, converge. As from Thursday afternoon, Macauliffe Square is adorned with an impressive marquee, taking on the vintage look, while the technical scrutineering is carried out in succession. It lasts a full day, with the technical stewards checking cars in the legend, challenger and classic categories, not to mention a nice handful of demo cars. As the hours go by, the atmosphere continues to rise, with competitors, observers and the public being only too happy to put an end to an off-season that was always too quiet and too long, especially since this year winter had announced its omnipresence in the Bastogne region and in the Luxembourg Ardennes. The show could begin. Just a handful of kilometres from the centre of Bastogne, the time was right for the international star, in this case non-Belgian, to test the legend Boucles at Bastogne 2019. As part of Christophe Jacob's Rallying Solutions team, the same team that won in 2018 with Frenchman Brian Bouffier, Mikko Hirvonen, the four-time rally vice-champion, got to grips with the Ford Escort Mark II that was to be his for the rest of the weekend. A machine that the Finn knows and appreciates, even if for him, considering driving on snow without studs, but with winter tyres and mandatory for all, was a novelty.
Well, I've always enjoyed everything, old cars, and that's my passion. Back home I have a lot of old Fords and different cars, and I really enjoy rebuilding them. So something about the old school I'm just passionate about. But then again, you can do really proper drifting with these cars as well, so that's what people want to see, and it's one of the best way of going as well, so long slides and the sound of the engine, that's one of the best things.
A question was on everyone's lips before the legend Boucles kicked off. Would Hirvonen adapt to this unusual tyre fitting for a flying Finn?
Il peut s'adapter à tout. Quand on voit les conditions qu'il rencontre en Monte-Carlo, en WRC, avec des pneus slick parfois sur la glace, il doit savoir faire. C'est sûr que c'est pas ce dont il a l'habitude. Lui, quand il roule en escorte sur la neige, il a des pneus très étroits avec des grands clous, comme ceux qu'on a utilisés il y a 2 semaines en Roumanie, et c'est tout à fait autre chose.
Another top driver of this team of Escort enthusiasts, the regional driver Fred Capras. Third in the overall standings in 2018, he's now one of the favourites for the legend Boucles.
Ce sera un top 5, un top 3, ce serait confirmer ce qu'on a fait l'année dernière, et si on peut aller plus haut, on ira plus haut.
Alors l'année dernière, vous avez été confronté à Brian Bouffier, vous étiez devant le premier jour, il a été royal le deuxième jour. Mikko Hirvonen débarque, il a une certaine expérience à lui de jour d'auto.
Il a l'air, hein. Déjà il est beaucoup moins en glisse que moi ici. Bon, c'est vrai qu'il y a un peu de spectateurs, donc on fait un peu de show, mais il va falloir demain, il va falloir switcher un peu et se mettre en mode performance.
Mark Duet is one of the public's favourites, as soon as he was back with a car that had marked his long and impressive career, the BMW M3 E30 Group A.
En 89, c'était la plus belle année. On a été champion de Belgique et on a chaque fois gagné la catégorie qui n'en était pas une, 2 roues motrices en championnat du monde. Et c'est vraiment un beau souvenir. On n'a que réussi, que gagné en 89.
Other cars played the originality card during this test run, with the Peugeot 504 Coupe V6, which was driven by the driver and journalist Benoît Galin, or the Triumph TR7 V8 of the Frenchman François Lettier, co-driven by local Marc Séverin. If the competition only officially starts on Saturday morning, the Legend Boucles at Bastogne is clearly a 3-day event, with several highlights starting on Friday in the late afternoon. This year it was the female entrants who were being honoured through the operation Legend Boucles for Women. The opportunity to appreciate that the event of the Royal Automobile Club de Spa is also a great success for the female sex. In the meantime, the traditional autograph session had begun, the opportunity for the numerous people present to meet the hero of an entire nation on the world rally scene. Thierry Neuville himself, once again present at the start with his faithful Nicolas Gilsoul, the Hyundai driver from Saint-Vite, was able to measure how sound his popularity is, which he highly appreciates.
C'est un peu une preuve où on peut se faire plaisir, s'amuser sans la moindre pression et en même temps régaler nos fans qui viennent pour nous voir.
On nous a dit que cette course-là va encore évoluer par rapport à l'année dernière. En quoi est-ce qu'elle est meilleure?
Effectivement, il y a pas mal d'évolution au niveau moteur. On a mis une boîte séquentielle aussi, donc elle est bien survitaminée maintenant, mais voilà, on risque de ne pas avoir besoin de toute la puissance ici avec les conditions hivernales.
In addition to Thierry Neuville and Mikko Hirvonen, the 2019 vintage of the Legend Boucles at Bastogne welcomed other rally personalities, including several top names in the modern Belgian competition, starting with Cédric Chérin, who was behind the wheel of another Ford Escort Mark II, less powerful than that of the Finn.
Vu les conditions météorologiques, il est clair que je pense que ça ne sert à rien d'avoir 250 chevaux sous le capot, donc avec un petit 180-190 chevaux, je pense que ça suffira. Maintenant, comme toujours, on ne va pas faire de pronostic à l'avance parce que malheureusement les 3 dernières éditions on a abandonné très tôt et j'ai vraiment envie de prendre du plaisir sur toutes les spéciales et surtout celle du dimanche que je n'ai jamais vue, donc voilà.
The Legend Boucles is also a great family story, such as the Martin family, with the father Jean-Michel, 4 times winner of the 24 Hours of Spa, and son Maxime, Aston Martin racing endurance driver.
Longtemps ça a été mon fils, maintenant c'est moi qui suis un petit peu à la traîne, mais bon voilà, c'est normal. Hein.
Ça vous tenait à cœur de participer les deux ici dans ce rallye?
Oui, c'est pour ça qu'on a demandé d'être des numéros très proches l'un de l'autre, pour quand même, je dirais que par rapport aux vrais pilotes on est un peu difficile, mais déjà entre nous on va déjà essayer de voir où on se situe.
Maxime, il se murmure que vous n'avez pas ces 2 week-ends de course sur l'année, vous en rajoutez volontiers un de plus?
Exactement, je suis qu'à 25 week-ends, donc à 26e pourquoi pas.
Grande récréation aussi, annuelle?
Ouais, grande récréation comme chaque année, beaucoup de plaisir, beaucoup d'amusement et comme on dit, au moins on essaie d'être proche l'un de l'autre, comme ça au moins on se marre entre nous et on essaie de faire notre classement.
As for Freddy Loix, another Belgian who shone in the World Rally Championship, he was a last-minute guest in the demo category at the wheel of a Toyota Celica GT4.
Je vais rerouler avec une Toyota, donc ça me fait penser un petit peu à 96 quand je suis venu au rallye de Boucles de Spa à l'époque, première fois avec le Celica, première fois dans la neige, donc ça va être un petit peu le même mais 20 ans plus tard.
20 ans plus tard, bien sûr, en démo, il n'y aura pas de chrono, ça vous pose pas de problème?
Non, surtout pas parce que comme j'avais pas trop de temps pour me préparer, je vais le faire avec ma femme Marie, donc on est vraiment là pour s'amuser.
A very attentive observer, Pierre Delettre, the organizer of the Legend Boucles at Bastogne 2019, could congratulate himself on the enormous popularity of the event among competitors and the public, while knowing that the next 2 days would be very intense.
Ah ça c'est clair que c'est une édition très compliquée, surtout qu'on annonce encore à peu près 10 cm de chute de neige cette nuit, donc là on est gâtés avec autant d'auto. C'est vrai que quand mon paternel les organisait, il a eu des conditions extrêmes, mais jamais avec autant de voitures, donc c'est l'aventure.
On a battu un record à Bastogne, le record des engagés, 340 ici, c'est bien ça.
Oui, c'est le 3e record absolu d'un rallye en Belgique, même si on peut dire, parce que les 2 autres sont... La première et 2e place, c'était quand on était à Spa avec les Legends. Ici, 340 à Bastogne. On a commencé à 220 la première année. Après 5 ans, ben voilà, c'est la preuve que tout le monde aime bien. Et je pense qu'il y a de quoi, et plus particulièrement cette année, ils vont être plus que gâtés.
The undeniable icing on the cake of this first day was the parade of more than 300 cars authorised to start, which once again attracted several tens of thousands of spectators to the heart of Bastogne on Friday evening. A simply impressive human tide, which says a great deal about the power of attraction of vintage cars and legendary drivers, even in an event that does not count towards any championship. It's called the Legend Boucles phenomenon. The wait was long, but on Saturday the 2nd of February at 9 a.m, the celebrations could begin, with a rich first day of 12 RTs, first in the Bastogne region for competitors in the Legend category, then in the province of Liège. And as from the section of Lorraine, the tone was set. Despite a disadvantageous coefficient of 1.4, Thierry Neuville and Nicolas Gilsoul were already putting on the pressure, claiming top spot in the rankings. Situation that further evolved in the next section, Les Éoliennes, which saw Ghislain de Mévius burst in with his spectacular Nissan 240 RS Group B. Result, the scratch and top of the provisional overall rankings. During the first passage of the Herdier d'Ardennes, it was the former winner Bernard Munster who went into overdrive at the wheel of his Porsche 911 BMA. A scratch that was not to call for others, the engine emitting a worrying noise that prompted him to throw in the towel. And the first retirement. Exit Munster, it was Fred Capras who came hurtling down the RT6 with his Ford Escort Mark II, with a scratch time confirming his position as leader at the end of the Luxembourg section. In other words, an extremely fast regional competitor. In the wake of Capras, the young Pierre-Louis Loubet appeared at the wheel of his Citroën Visa Mille-Piste Group B, proving that he is one of the true international hopes. Unfortunately, the rest would prove more problematic, as the Frenchman eventually disappeared from the rankings during the afternoon. At the end of the first 6 stages of the Legend Boucles at Bastogne, the competitors in the Legend category passed through the centre of Bastogne for a regroup that was highly appreciated by the public. After having passed over the podium, competitors started off for the longest link of the event, ready to fight it out on a few emblematic sections. A second part of the day spent in the province of Liège, which was going to highlight the potential of Thierry Neuville's small bomb. The official Hyundai WRC driver, 4 times world vice champion, produced a great series of scratches. Here we are on board between the driver and the co-driver to try to understand why the Belgian rally reference dominated these sections of the Legend Boucles at Bastogne. If the Opel Corsair of Neuville and Gilles-Soul would enthrall one and all with its top speed, it would not get through Saturday afternoon without problems. Upon his return to Bastogne, oil pressure issues did not make the undeniable star of these legend Boucles optimistic for the future.
On va voir ce qu'on peut faire, mais a priori, on n'a pas les pièces pour remplacer et le risque serait trop grand de repartir comme ça demain. On est content qu'on a pu finir la journée. On s'est bien régalé, mais c'était quand même stressant parce que le moteur est quand même tout nouveau. On a déjà dû le reviser vendredi avant le départ du rallye à cause de ces mêmes problèmes. Donc voilà, on ne va pas trop prendre des risques et jouer avec.
At the end of the first day's race, Fred Capras and Jeffrey Razi were once again in the news by maintaining their leadership in the overall rankings. After their podium in 2018, would the duo be able to beat the odds?
Dans la meilleure position qui soit pour terminer la journée, ça c'est sûr, d'autant plus qu'on l'a depuis la deuxième spéciale ce matin. Franchement, on a vraiment envoyé du lourd, on a pris des risques, mais des risques mesurés et voilà, ça paye à la fin de la journée.
Bien sûr, il va falloir ouvrir demain, bien évidemment, dans cette catégorie Legend. Après le passage de toutes les classiques, vous le sentez comment?
Ça, franchement, c'est pas un problème. Ça ne me gêne absolument pas parce que voilà, il y a 150-200 voitures qui vont passer avant nous, donc les traces, elles seront faites. C'est pas comme la dernière qu'on vient de faire, la One, où là, on démarre juste derrière Hirvonen, il n'y a pas de traces. C'est compliqué, on n'a vraiment pas pris de risque pour ramener la voiture entière ici à Bastogne.
Surprise also with a second place overall on Saturday evening for an Adrien Fernemont, who is among the top drivers of the Belgian Rally Championship and who was discovering the legend Boucles at Bastogne and the handling of the Ford Escort Mark II. Teamed up with Samuel Malin, Fernemont at times made the odd mistake, without however compromising anything.
Je n'aurais pas pu espérer ça. Les conditions n'étaient pas faciles fin de journée, mais c'est quand même des coins que je commence à connaître. Après ma victoire au Spa Rally début d'année dernière, donc je me suis vraiment bien marré au volant de cette Ford Escort aujourd'hui. J'ai vraiment pris mon pied malgré les conditions super délicates.
But what about Mikko Hirvonen in all this? Like Brian Bouffier a year earlier, the Finn devoted the first day of racing to taming the Mark II Escort on roads with less snow than initially announced. Up in third place overall, he was clearly ready to tackle the forest the following morning.
Well, they are really tricky, I have to say. I mean, it was okay in a midday when it was only wet, but the morning with all the snow and then the evening with all the fog we had in the darkness, it was really tricky. And I have to say, I'm really impressed of some of the local drivers, how fast they are going. They are really pushing hard, so let's see what we can do tomorrow. But anyway, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a really good day.
Winner of the Köln-Ahrweiler rally in the autumn, the German Georg Berlandi had landed in Bastogne with great ambitions, which really didn't ruin anything. His Opel Kadett GTE bringing a nice touch of originality to a grid that traditionally featured Escorts and other 911s. Very nice first stage, ascribed to Ghislain de Mévius and Johan Jallet, whose Nissan 240 RS Group B was in the top 5 on Saturday evening, ready to face a terrain more suited to its vital statistics the following day. Back with his Lancia Beta Monte Carlo Group 4, Jean-Pierre Vanois was also credited with an excellent first day, even if everything was not mechanically perfect.
Pour le moment, l'embrayage tient. Je dois chaque fois la relancer dans l'équité à l'embrayage. Mais il a l'air de l'encaisser. Donc, quand on veut vraiment la relancer, tu vois, le moteur il ne repart pas bien. Et une fois qu'il est à 4000, il va jusqu'à 6. Quoi. Avant, il partait à 2 jusqu'à 7. Mais voilà, on est là. Et c'était quand même vraiment difficile aujourd'hui. En tous les cas, pour la mécanique. Si on est à l'arrivée de la 70e course de la Lancia, on peut dire que c'est vraiment une voiture très solide, je peux vous le dire. On travaille beaucoup dessus, mais il faut quand même que ce soit solide à la base.
If we were expecting a certain British offensive at the legend Boucles, Germany was in the spotlight on this first day, with Andreas Gerst provisionally in 7th place, also with a Ford Escort. On Saturday evening, one needed to go down to 8th provisional place to find a trace of a first Porsche 911, that of the My Vintage version of the present FIA rally director, namely Yves Maton in person. Present in the top 10 for Tim Piercy and his Mark II Escort, and as every year, the loyal legend Boucles Bastogne driver had his eyes on Sunday's forest sections. Constantly attacking at the wheel of the Ford Escort Mark II LLM Mecha Sport, Cédric Cherin was unfortunately unable to avoid a mistake that cost him a fair amount of time. No panic though, as there's still a long way to go.
Je trouvais qu'il n'y avait pas assez de neige sur la route, donc j'ai voulu aller rechercher un petit peu sur les côtés. Ouais, non, c'était pas effectivement la bonne manière de commencer ce rallye, mais voilà, c'est comme ça, on a fait une petite faute. On était parti sur les notes de l'organisation et dans ma tête, ce virage était plus ouvert que prévu. Voilà, c'est de ma faute, j'aurais dû mieux m'adapter, on va dire ça comme ça. Donc par contre, ça se termine bien, parce que là, dans le noir, on va dire que la puissance compte un peu moins et les conditions étaient vraiment difficiles. Donc je pense qu'on était 65, maintenant on est 8, donc c'est pas mal.
Impressively comfortable behind the wheel of the Peugeot 504 Coupe V6, Benoît Galin was just outside the provisional top 10, which was quite promising for the next day. As for Marduez, he simply delighted the spectators with his BMW M3 Group A, not worrying about the time lost to favour the show.
Magnifique, magnifique, beaucoup de plaisir, la voiture marche l'enfer, comme on dit, et on a vraiment eu beaucoup de plaisir. Perdu un peu de temps, on a été bloqué pendant 3 minutes derrière un concurrent qui était sorti, mais sinon, à part ça, la voiture va très bien, on s'amuse bien. C'est vraiment un beau rallye, c'est dommage que la neige est partie, mais c'est un vrai rallye quand même.
The second best Porsche 911 was that of Fred Bouvy, relegated to the Super Legend class and therefore credited with a coefficient of 1.4. Worth noting the presence in the provisional top 15 of this lad, Christophe Deleo, at the wheel of an impressive Opel Ascona A. From his side, Alan Walker, the spokesperson of the British drivers involved in historic rallies, he got the measure of Belgium's roads and tracks, not always obvious. Among the big names featuring down in the rankings was former winner Stéphane Stouff, who was rarely lucky during the first day of the legend Boucles Bastogne. A tricky course, which did not fail to surprise many a driver, enough to the delight of lovers of all kinds of tricks, with as top performers Patrick de Blauer, Frenchman Fred Rosati, Bernard Lamy and the German Thomas Schulz, who all put up quite a show. For a few moments, we leave the stars of the legend Boucles to move on to the Challenger category, which favours regularity at an average speed of 80 km an hour. Anything but obvious under these conditions, of course. And the tone was set as from the first regularity test on Saturday, with an offensive by the regional drivers, starting with Charles Blaireau and Antoine Dauby, who brought their BMW 325i E30 to the top of the ranking. Having chosen the Challenger category this year, Romuald Thirion unsurprisingly stood out as one of the men to watch on his home event. Other team from the Legend category, Dino Kennis and Bjorn van Overschelde, had the firm intention to confirm a possible Bavarian takeover in this category, which was confirmed as from the start of the race. However, it was better not to bury the top crews of 2018 vintage too soon, with Yves de Flandre co-driven this time by Théo Sirson. On Saturday evening, the famous orange Porsche was in 4th place, an unusual result for its owner.
C'était un peu compliqué. Bon, le matin, on a crevé, on a fait une sortie de route à cause du pneu crevé. mais pas trop grave puisqu'on prend 8 secondes. Et par contre là, on a vraiment beaucoup d'ennuis avec la voiture. Ça fait quelques spéciales où on n'a plus d'anti-brouillard, plus d'essuie-glace. La porte s'ouvre toute seule. Ça fait longtemps que je n'avais plus autant dormi dans un rallye.
Unlucky last year, Johnny Delays and Eddie Gully at the halfway mark were heading up the chasing group with their superb Ford Escort Mark II with the Vatanen-Richards look. Rather promising for the future.
Content, étonné, avec tout ce qui nous est passé la journée. On vient de faire toutes les spéciales du côté de Chevron, One sans essuie-glace, plus de chauffage, pas moyen de trouver le problème. Une journée, vraiment, on a perdu nos casques, enfin les interphones, vraiment. On a ouvert le train avant le matin, voilà.
Et il manque un bout à l'arrière droit de la voiture.
Ouais, ça, c'est un petit ballot de paille, ça à Chevron, ça sur la place.
Pour faire le show.
Pour le show.
The same applies to André Lausberg and his son Guillaume, somewhat annoyed by one or two small errors in the rankings, but perfectly aware that everything could still happen.
Je suis un peu dubitatif sur les classements, donc je vais attendre que les classements soient faits parce que chez nous il y a des grosses erreurs. Donc je pense, on a bien roulé, on a commis des petites erreurs, parfois un tête à queue ou quoi, mais on a surtout très bien maîtrisé la dernière moitié de la journée sur les spéciales de Stoumont, Baudeux et One, où là on a fait des passages à zéro dans des conditions qui n'étaient pas faciles. Et ça, personnellement, c'est la première fois que ça m'arrive, donc je suis très content déjà rien que comme ça. Et demain, j'espère qu'on ne sera pas trop loin demain pour pouvoir revenir et monter sur le podium. Et demain, on va vraiment se cracher dans les mains parce que ça, c'est spécial terre, c'est ce qui me convient.
As for Julien Collet and Xavier Hubelin, their great debut in historic was going in the right direction, with a provisional 6th place on Saturday evening with this Opel Kadett GTE owned by André Lausberg, despite its small size. As one of the regional drivers in these conditions, Luc Capras and Christophe Marquet were determined to make the most of the four-wheel drive of their Audi Quattro in the snow-covered forests on Sunday. Several Porsches initially entered in the Legend category were finally part of the Challenger category, starting with Philippe Mortgat and Pascal Lopez, who finished 8th on the Saturday evening. For others, this first day went less well, Pierre-Henri Kettelos and Sébastien Mauroy having some problems with their Ford Escort, perfectly imitated by Alain and Alexandre Jadot in the Porsche 911 Safari type of the Advanced Motorsport team. As expected, Sunday was not going to be a gentle day for the competitors, with snow, ice and mud making the course extremely tricky. And the first victims were about to fall, with Johnny Delays and Eddie Gully once again forced to stop there and then with mechanical problems. No second consecutive victory for Yves de Flandre, overtaken by André Lausberg at the beginning of the day, before the Porsche left the track to end up in a ditch and a new retirement. Bronze medalists in 2018, Jean-François Olivier and Jean Magnette, disappeared from the rankings as from the moment they arrived in the forest. Still no success for Chavard, this time teamed up with the journalist Alexandra Peters, whose second-generation Volkswagen Golf did not make it to the finish. In fact, Sunday's best performer was to be André Lausberg, perfectly on the pace with his Porsche 911 BMA, to the extent of once again climbing a place on the final podium, this time on the third tread.
Des conditions très très difficiles, mais qui nous conviennent. Et bon voilà, on a fait quand même... on se fait un peu chaud parce qu'on a attaqué, bon ça a payé dans la remontée jusqu'au podium. Maintenant on est arrivé près de la deuxième place aussi à un moment donné, mais bon, les circonstances ont fait que bon, finalement ben, voilà, le classement est fait comme ça. C'est un très beau podium pour moi et Guillaume. Et évidemment, quand on est sur le podium, on est toujours content.
This meant that the two BMWs, which are at the front of the pack as from Saturday evening, remained firmly at the top of the rankings, with a second place for the 2002 TI of Guino Kennis and Bjorn van Overskelder. As such, it was therefore the regional drivers, Charles Blaireau and Antoine Dauby, who emerged as the great challenger winners of this difficult 2019 edition at the end of a simply exceptional course.
Beaucoup de travail, un gros cœur je pense, et on adore la glisse.
Une certaine expérience qui parle et puis une expérience de la région également.
La région oui, maintenant l'expérience de la voiture, j'ai roulé juste aux crêtes avec, c'est un nouvel achat. Et puis ici on achevait de la découvrir et ça s'est bien passé.
Ça peut sembler, vu votre classement naturellement, ça peut sembler que c'était facile. C'était facile de l'intérieur ou pas?
Non, c'était pas toujours facile, mais c'est un travail d'équipe, un beau travail d'équipe qu'on a bien géré à deux et on est content d'être là.
An equally impeccable journey for Julien Collet and Xavier Hubelin, who concluded this first participation with a convincing fourth place.
On s'était pas trop mis d'objectifs avant le rallye, mais c'est vrai qu'on est super content de cette place-là, parce que c'est notre première en historique, première fois en propulsion en rallye, donc c'était 100% découverte aussi bien pour moi que pour mon copilote, donc on peut dire que c'est vraiment une chouette position. Ouais.
Initially entered in the legend category, Pascal and Germain Mouchen handled Sunday perfectly well, quickly breaking into the top 10 to finally complete the top 5. Nice performance from these other regionals. In what at times resembles survival, other crews were able to demonstrate their resilience by avoiding any fatal errors. This was the case for the Frenchmen Jacques Thibon and Didier Renard, the best non-Belgian crew in 6th overall. Nice result for this other Mark II escort, with René Bruchmans co-driven by Eric Gressens. The duo failed by some 100 points down on the hexagonal crew, ranked in 6th. A Toyota Corolla appeared in 8th position, naturally that of Manu Egermont and Edouard de Bracalet, who clearly found a category that suited them. Nice performance from another local crew in the Peugeot 205 GTI, Victor Boutonbois and Frédéric Hanoteau, 9th overall. The Lioness preceded Luc Capras and Christophe Marquez Audi Quattro, who were probably hoping for a more flattering result given the conditions, but despite everything were up in the top 10. As for Vincent Prégardien and Gregory Durand, they were credited with another regular performance, which left the nice Ford Escort Mark II in 11th position. The hunting pack had a few other top representatives who shared the honours, with the Opel Ascona B of Berns Gress, the Porsche 911 of Glessner Mostard, and the Toyota Corolla of Herb Blaise. Coming from France, Edouard Profit and Alexander Walter gave it their all, and even a little more, show guaranteed. As for Bernard Diagre and Michael Louis, they failed to reach the top 30, not without winning the trophy for the most beautiful livery of the legend Boucles at Bastogne 2019. True to say that the escort in the colours of the Liège rock band Les Gaufres would definitely not go unnoticed.
Telling beats.
We move over to the regularity experts, brought together in the classic category, who started this legend Boucles at Bastogne 2019 in the province of Liège, with the sections of Stoumont, Bordeaux and Moine, before finally setting sail for the Bastogne region. As from the first regularity test, Gaëtan Schoenbrodt and François Galen took the lead with their Ford Escort Mark I, a position as advantageous as it was flattering, which the duo would retain throughout the day, but never able to build on it in the rankings. Nevertheless, at the end of stage 1, it was the yellow Escort that was wearing the yellow jersey.
Super, on savait que le matin ça allait être un peu compliqué, c'est tout le monde, donc on a bien commencé là, on connaissait. Et puis ici c'était un peu à celui qui avait le moins peur pour sa voiture, je pense, mais je crois que les autres ont fait attention aussi, donc on verra demain, ça va jouer demain de toute façon.
In fact, out of the imposing group of favourites for victory, only 2 crews were a little too far down, given their past performances. Unlucky in 2018, Kurt Dujardin and Philippe Deplanque found themselves in 16th provisional position with their powerful Porsche 911 from BMA's workshops. As for Eric Ganjou and DJ Gatti, subscribers to the podium of the Legend booklet, they suffered from a minor technical issue with their imposing and sturdy Volvo 142.
On a eu un peu des soucis mécaniques, support moteur qui a cassé, un peu de problèmes avec les appareils de régule et tout de suite ça nous fait perdre du temps.
Belle collection de places d'honneur ici aux Légendes Boucles depuis pas mal de temps. On vous citait peut-être comme l'équipage favori cette année, ça va être compliqué?
Ça va être compliqué, oui. Ou alors il faut que les autres aient beaucoup de problèmes demain peut-être.
If Schoenbrodt and Galen took the first stage for their account, it was bustling in their wake on Saturday evening, with former winners Eric Pirot and Catherine Monaire a mere 15 points behind with their traditional Renault 5 Alpine.
Après les légendes, on sait ce qui reste, plus grand chose de la route, donc on a fait avec, mais je pense qu'on a pas mal tourné. On n'a pas de temps ici sur les spéciales, mais je pense qu'on n'était pas trop mal.
Donc plus que jamais candidat à la victoire ici, vous y croyez?
Je sais pas, parce que demain, avec la neige, c'est pas un avantage de partir devant, je crois. Donc on avait dit on va essayer de ne pas partir devant, mais c'est difficile de rouler à l'envers. Donc voilà, on verra demain, mais c'est tellement piégeux. Et ici, il y avait du verglas dans la dernière, c'était pire que même la terre. Je veux dire, c'était qu'une glace, mais bon, ça peut arriver demain aussi, donc on verra. On va prendre spécial par spécial.
Another unavoidable duo in the fight for victory, Patrick Lambert and Yves Millanders, were of course present with their BMW 2002 Ti, completing a provisional top 3. The Bavarian was ahead of 2 Ford Escorts, starting with the Mark I of the young sons of Alexandre Delez and Benoit de Flandre, more at ease than ever. As for the 2018 winners, Marc van Dale and Julien Maguet, just back from a victorious Neige et Glace rally, they were in a waiting position, knowing that the decisive phase of the event was comprised out of the Sunday Forest section.
Plus compliqué, d'abord les 3 premières spéciales ce matin, je n'étais pas du tout réveillé. Et ensuite ça a été mieux, mais j'ai des problèmes moteurs, j'ai des ratés depuis toute la journée qui m'ont beaucoup embêté. Et en plus c'était très cassant cet après-midi. Et honnêtement, j'ai eu mal au ventre pour ma voiture et j'ai un peu lâché le pied à certains endroits. Mais ceci étant, partir dans les 15 premiers, plutôt 15e ou je ne sais pas combien je suis ce soir, m'arrange bien pour demain parce que les conditions s'avèrent très compliquées et je préfère être là que premier demain.
The provisional top 10 still boasted 2 Porsches, the very beautiful 911 SC RS of Johann and Joppa Gitzels, as also the 924S of Patrice Simon and Christian Bernard. While we were waiting for the best French crews, it was the Vaz, also known as Lada, 21011 from Estonians Thomas Kriek and Hein Arvi, who stood out as the best international representatives in this pounding Belgian event. Not far behind, Jerome Ambrosini and Montgomery Abel brought their Audi 80 GT ahead of their fellow countrymen Frederick Magierek and Philippe Lhomme with their now traditional Volkswagen Golf. Worth noting the 13th provisional place of a worthy representative of what was once the Boucles de Spa, the Saab 99, here driven by André Neuteles and Guy Houdin. Also unmissable in the provisional top 20, the presence of this Peugeot 305, rarely seen in competition, tamed by Jean-François Bretz and Pascal Wilmot. This also is the charm of the classic category. As in previous years, it was in this unique setting that the fate of the classic category, similar to that of the Legend and Challenger, would be decided. And believe us, given the weather conditions, getting down to zero in the regularity tests was not easy, especially since the 60km/h enthusiasts opened the road and left their mark. With the majority of the favourite crews grouped behind the provisional leaders, we could expect a second undecisive day. Very soon, the yellow escort of the leaders, Scombrote and Galen, lost heavily in l'Ardoisière and Lunchgarden Libremont, enough to make it tumble from the top of the rankings. Much awaited, the Ardoisière RT and its near on 42 kilometres was in fact to produce a nice surprise, with the best performance being attributed to a Lada led by Latvians. It was indeed the Stanovic-Hailevski's duo that distinguished itself, demonstrating its ability to perform on gravel, especially seeing it repeated the performance 2 sections further on. Regarding the overall rankings, Mark van Dalen and Julien Minguet made a big splash in this long stretch, which allowed the 2018 winners to promptly climb to the top of the hierarchy. This was then repeated with the red Ford Escort Mark II recording an impressive 2 in a row in the wake of last year.
En plus, celle-ci, on a été la chercher, quoi. Hier, la journée n'était pas top pour nous. Et puis aujourd'hui, on a beaucoup roulé, beaucoup attaqué, notamment ce matin dans la longue. On a fait une grosse différence et après, on a enchaîné. Julien n'a pas fait une erreur, un boulot top. Et la voiture a roulé à merveille, donc deuxième victoire d'affilée ici. Et puis doublé après le neige et glace pour nous qui sommes vraiment des amateurs. On fait 2 rallyes par an, c'est un vrai bonheur, quoi.
Avec des pneus à 37 €.
Voilà, exactement. On a choisi des pneus Hankook qui ont marché à perfection, 37 € pièce. Il ne fallait pas plus pour gagner, donc ça reste démocratique ce rallye en Legend. En classique, pardon.
After a strong day in the forest, young guns Alexandre Delay and Benoit de Flandre made them one of the weekend's top performers by placing their Ford Escort Mark I in second place overall. Proof that talent comes early on in life. These two will certainly need to be watched in 2020.
On se demandait un peu quoi, des prises de temps un peu bizarres de temps en temps. On se demandait tiens, où est-ce qu'on va finir. Et puis au final, quand on voit les favoris de hier, bah, on voit que tout ceux-là, ils ont eu des problèmes, ils sont sortis, ils ont fait des fautes. Et au final, bah, voilà, on est là, on ne s'aidait pas trop, non, pas du tout même.
Benoît, ça veut dire que les jeunes s'illustrent incontestablement. Ça a été quoi votre force en tant que copilote et pilote ensemble aujourd'hui?
Bah, il faut savoir que c'est que notre deuxième participation à un rallye ensemble. On a fait Ypres avant. Moi en plus je découvrais les genres de boucles, donc c'était pas évident, mais voilà, je pense qu'il y a vraiment une belle entente dans la voiture. Bon, il est tolérant de mes petites erreurs de débutant, je vais dire, mais franchement je suis très content d'avoir participé ici avec lui et il a un bon coup de volant, donc je pense que on est complémentaires à ce niveau-là.
Surprise also on the lowest tread of the podium with the impressive comeback of Eric Garjou and Didier Gatti, who quickly forgot about the day's technical difficulties prior to offering themselves a new top 3.
Grâce à un support moteur de BMW qu'on a remplacé et qu'on nous a donné prêté plutôt. Et voilà, nous sommes sur le podium comme l'année passée.
Didier, il fallait faire quoi aujourd'hui pour réussir et remonter sur ce podium?
Bonne question. Il fallait être concentré, corriger régulièrement les métrés pour arriver avec un bon temps au final et ne pas prendre trop de retard.
Bon, au bout du compte, ça fait encore un podium supplémentaire pour vous et toujours pas la victoire.
Toujours pas la victoire, non. Il faudra bien revenir encore une fois. Hein.
A choice performance also for Johan and Joppa Gitzels, whose Porsche 911 SC RS had well digested the forest sections, with at the end of the day an excellent performance in Églantine and a flattering 4th place overall. A car that was in front of the BMW 2002 Ti of Patrick Lambert and Yves Newlanders, obviously up in the first part of the rankings, even though they could have seen themselves on one of the podium steps. The second part of the top 10 was full of other eventual podium candidates, not far off their initial objective, with Etienne Bonnier and Benoit Remion 6th with a Ford Escort Mark I. The best foreign pair was in 7th place, with a confirmation of the excellent form of the Lada 2103 of Agris Stanovic and Uldis Ilevisk, with its small 1500cc engine, to be seen again as from next year. Meanwhile, the Latvians did not miss out on their challenge. At any rate, they were ahead of other top Belgian crews, starting with Gaëtan Monseur and David Hanke's BMW 325, who wound up in 8th position. As for the previous evening's leaders, they could but complete the overall top 10. Gaëtan Scombroot and François Galen on the one hand, Eric Pirot and Catherine Monard on the other, conceding a great deal of time right from the start in the long section of La Loisière. Just goes to show that at the Legend Boucles, nothing is ever guaranteed beforehand. Top 10 just missed for Claude Desjardins and Philippe de Planca, who also took a hit in the longest RT of the day, prior to amassing good performances during the rest of the day. The second foreign crew also came from Eastern Europe, with the Lada, or Vaz, 21011 of the Estonians Kriek and Arvi, 12th in the overall rankings. For Claude Ninan and Christophe Simon, the passage in La Mandarine proved to be problematic, which also resulted in the Opel Kadett C dropping out of the top 10. As for the French crews, not only were they subjected to the law of the Belgian, but they must now also be wary of the offensive coming from Eastern Europe. The Magirec-Lhomme duo finished 14th overall with their VW Golf, just ahead of the Audi 80 of Ambrosini and Abel. Undoubtedly disappointment for the Dutch-speaking Dirk van Rompuy and Jens van Overschelde, whose Opel Ascona B also bore the brunt of La Loisière, the duo having settled for an honourable place. The regional Jonathan George and Elizabeth Fagnard had already lost everything on Saturday morning when encountering technical problems as soon as they left the service park, which did not prevent them from shining, achieving the third best performance of the Gravel Challenge, only taking in Sunday's results. It is impossible to conclude this brief review of the classic category without giving an insight into the extreme variety of grid with more than 150 cars, with one of the oldest and most efficient Volvo 122s of the Dutch Martin van der Heijden and Michiel Sanders, excellent 18th overall with a 1965 car. Nice performance also for this competition version of the Lada 2105, named VFTS, with the duo Vlasiar Nice in the overall top 30. As for Father Jean Demandre, assisted by his brother Philippe, he brought his Talbot Sunbeam TI home in a fine 36th final place, not far off his start number. A noteworthy presence of the Frenchmen Guy Langlois and Christophe Berthelot in this Peugeot 104 ZS, extremely rare on Belgian roads. A last-minute change of mount for former Prime Minister Guy Verhofstadt, always accompanied by Guido de Vreeke, who had traded his Lada in for this Fiat 124 Sport Spider, just missing out on an overall top 40. Another size of car with this Mercedes 450 SLC of the Frenchmen Le Gall and Barres, which obviously displayed sturdiness to overcome the elements. The opposite with this small but terribly attractive Alfa Romeo Giulia 1300 GT Junior of Hendrix Gumin, which finished in the wake of the big Mercedes. If the Beetle is not the most popular Volkswagen raced in rallies, it must be admitted that André and Skipto made excellent use of it. A single Datsun 240Z at the start, and of course at the finish this year, with these TV men Frédéric Ledoux and Christophe Hanke, who had a great time. Equally present at the finish for this Simca 1000 of the Luxembourgers, Hirons and Doyen, classed in the same category as the Peugeot 104 ZS. This gleaming Citroën DS23 injection arrived from the Netherlands, which naturally overcame Sunday's difficulties, with Martens and Van Schie in the cockpit. Becker and Geers were also playing the 1964 Anglia 105E card with great pleasure too. The best Skoda in the rankings was the 110R version of Hagelstein and Close, dating from 1972. We finish with another nice little French machine, the Citroën 2CV of Eric Dehoux and Antoine Mertens de Wilmar, crowned the best 2CV of this edition, despite many penalties. This time around, no presence at the finish for Marchal and Beaujean, with this other well-known 2CV, but with the confidence of being able to move mountains. Before reaching the end of the race in the legend category, let's take a look at the demos, just to the delight of the eyes and ears. No question here of the slightest ranking, but rather to offer the public a glimpse into the history of the World Rally Championship, with in particular this Audi Sport Quattro S1, which marked the end of the Group B period. Audi Quattro was a subject of discussion for the highly international John Thomas. A big fan of the event, the German of diverse origins was back with this spectacular A2 version. Similar to last year, the Subaru Impreza 555 machines, symbols of the Group A era, were present in large numbers in Bastogne, led by the Brit Stephen Rockingham and his European champion version with the Pole Krzysztof Holovic, but also the inescapable Julien Ellerboat, Mr. Arsène Plexi, who offered a mix between the traditional 555 livery and the colour of the American Sherman tanks in action during the Battle of the Bulge. For his part, Martijn Spirel lined up a legacy Group A in a Rothmans livery, reminiscent of the career beginnings and British Rally Champion title won by a certain Colin McRae, legend. The novelty of the year was a Toyota Celica GT4 cars in their ST165 version, notably entered by Jean-Pierre Van Eerem and Isabelle Place, as also by the Frenchman Laurent Battu. A Japanese car that claimed no less than 13 victories at the highest level, in addition to the title of world champion with a certain Carlos Sainz. It was also a Celica GT4, driven by the last-minute guest of the legend booklet Bastogne 2019, Freddie Loix in person, who enjoyed the demonstration. Another word about this Renault Clio in Group A version, that of Julien Marmifero, who paid tribute to the performances once put in by a certain Bernard Munster at the wheel of an identical car. But let's get back to the top performers in the legend category, with a ranking that was immediately shaken up as soon as the cars passed through the marathon of Lavoisier, which saw the leader Fred Capras lose quite a bit of time. It didn't take much for Mikko Hirvonen to leap out of his box like a jumping jack. Similar to Brian Bouffier 12 months earlier, the Flying Finn perfectly managed the forest stages, here and there planting new time posts. Totally at ease on this type of terrain, Hirvonen was irresistibly widening the gap to return to Bastogne as the big winner of the Legend Booklet 2019. No doubt about it, the World Rally Championship drivers are stalwarts.
I really didn't know what to expect, because I just sat down last night and made the pace notes from the video what the organizers gave, and I had no idea if they're going to match or if I'm able to drive, but I was really surprised. They were really drivable, and I could find the fast places and slow places and gave me the confidence to attack a little bit over there, so it did help, yes.
It's a special kind of rally, of course. You like this kind of rally?
Of course, now I can say that, yeah. I mean, when you win the rally, it's fantastic, but it's really challenging. I was not expecting this, and also when I was coming here, I didn't realize that the pace, everybody are really going here. They are really competitive, really going flat out. And it's really nice. With old cars like this, it's like going back to 70s and experience how rallying was back in the time. So really, really good fun.
Avec cette escorte aux couleurs d'ailleurs de l'escorte rallye spéciale qui aura lieu à Chimay au mois de
relegated to third place after Sunday's first special stage. Fred Capras did not take long in recovering the first runner-up spot to finally claim the title of runner-up to the Great Yvonne. Over the years, the driver from Tenneville near Bastogne has gained in confidence, and we can sense an overall victory on the horizon.
Il fait de la différence pour deux choses. Un, parce qu'il a décidé de la faire. Ça, voilà, on ne sait rien faire contre. Et nous, on a décidé de rouler moins vite pour assurer dans cette spéciale-là, dans cette longue spéciale qui est très très piégeuse. Et la deuxième, voilà, manque de bol. On est calé derrière deux démos alors qu'ils sont lâchés 12 minutes devant nous. Et les mecs, on arrive encore à les rattraper en spéciale. On perd 40 secondes. Voilà, c'est comme ça.
C'est comme ça. Troisième l'année dernière, deuxième cette année. Ça continue de progresser au niveau du classement, Fred.
Ouais, effectivement. Hein. La prochaine, ce sera un.
Adrian Fernemont, the legend Boucles at Bastogne best rookie, had to learn everything in just 2 days. A regular contender for victory in the Belgian Rally Championship, the Namur-based driver certainly made a few mistakes, but he had a great deal of fun.
Découvrir le pilotage de ce genre de voiture sur la terre, sur la neige, sur la glace, c'était vraiment très compliqué, mais je pense qu'on s'en est pas trop mal sorti finalement, puisqu'on perd qu'une place sur la journée. On n'a pas fait une erreur. Ah si, on a fait une erreur qui nous fait perdre un peu de temps, mais rien de bien particulier. Donc je suis vraiment content d'être à l'arrivée de ce rallye sur le podium, derrière un grand nom, Mikko Hirvonen, qui sur la terre nous a fait une grande démonstration. Il n'y a rien à dire, c'était incroyable. Et puis félicitations aussi à Fred pour sa deuxième place. Bon voilà, je crois qu'il m'a manqué un peu d'expérience du terrain, mais je reviendrai pour faire mieux.
Another driver who left a very big impression in Bastogne, the German Georg Berlandi, discovered the legend Boucles. With his victory at the 2018 Köln-Ahrweiler Rally, he impressed many a follower at the wheel of an Opel Kadett GTE Group 4. Not without acknowledging that he had discovered a new dimension of rallying in the Belgian Ardennes.
It was amazing, incredible. Also, I never drive such a rally in my completely career. It was unbelievable, very, very nice.
You enjoyed it?
Yes, I like it very much. The conditions, slippery, snow, ice. I never drive such rally. It was perfect. My car was. Yes, he made a good job. Our Willy in Germany, we called him Willy, and it's a very good car.
Best driver of a Porsche 911, as from the moment Bernard Münster retired, Yves Maton continued to move up in the rankings, treating himself to a top 5 under the colours of my vintage. And quite clearly, the FIA's rally director had a great time.
C'est un rallye complètement différent, c'est avant tout un rallye de passionnés qui viennent ici pour se retrouver un week-end avec des vieilles voitures. Et puis c'est un rallye où il y a plein de choses différentes. Un jour vous pouvez reconnaître, un jour vous ne pouvez pas reconnaître. Des conditions, je pense qu'on a eu l'éventail complet des conditions qu'on pouvait avoir ce week-end dans un rallye. Donc c'est ça qui fait la beauté de cette épreuve et puis cette ambiance hyper amicale. C'est sûr, on est là pour essayer de faire un résultat, mais ce n'est pas l'aspect le plus important du week-end.
Mikko Hirvonen disait le rallye est vachement populaire en Belgique. Confirmé?
Oui, c'est sûr que nous qui passons un peu notre temps à travers le monde, la Belgique, ça reste un des pays où le rallye est le plus populaire, certainement avec, je pense que pour tout le monde, le deuxième, c'est l'Argentine, où il y a une grande faveur autour du motorsport. Mais la Belgique, ça continue à être un pays motorsport et certainement rallye.
Back with his Lancia Beta Monte Carlo Group 4, Jean-Pierre Van der Wouwer once again combined performance with the absence of errors throughout the 2 days. If his Transalpine is not the most powerful car on the grid, Van der knows how to ensure clinching another strong result.
C'était très compliqué et c'est là qu'on a réussi quand même à faire des temps. Dans la première, on a été trop prudent. Je regrette la première, on a gardé un peu sous le pied. Mais le reste, quand les spéciales sont tout enneigées, on sait tirer son épingle du jeu avec 170 chevaux, mais dès que ça commence à être sec. Mais par contre, la bagnole, pas loin de problème, on a remis de l'huile. J'ai vraiment une équipe qui me suit extraordinaire. Je ne le dirai jamais assez, quoi. Si je n'avais pas ces gars-là, parce que la voiture elle a été toute désossée avant au Spa, et on va devoir la redésoter toute parce que elles ont dégusté les bagnoles, et ceux qui n'ont pas eu de problème, c'est qu'ils avaient bien préparé la voiture.
The driver from Verviers was ahead of Cédric Cherin, who once again made it a point of honour to try everything at the wheel of his Ford Escort Mark II. A new mistake cost him dearly, but in the end the Flairon driver had a blast on the forest stages in winter mode.
Je ne sais pas rouler en mode off. Il faut toujours que j'essaye de tirer le maximum du matériel qu'on a, et c'est ce qu'on a essayé de faire. Voilà, parfois ça passe, parfois pas, mais voilà, ici on a fait 2 petites fautes qui nous coûtent évidemment peut-être un podium, même si j'ai quand même des doutes à la régulière. Je pense que les 3 premiers étaient quand même très vite et que ça aurait été quand même compliqué d'aller les chercher. Mais bon, voilà, on s'est bien amusé, honnêtement, un super parcours, beaucoup de monde et un beau week-end quand même à garder en mémoire.
The British delegation's best representative was Alan Walker, also with an Escort Mark II. More at ease in the Ardennes forest than on the asphalted but very tricky roads on Saturday, he won the first top 10, which clearly calls for more. As for Gilles de Mévius, he brought this Nissan 240 RS Group B home, which had been one of the leading cars on Saturday morning. A touch of originality on the grid, this super powerful and spectacular Japanese car delighted the public. If Adrien Fellemont made an impression for his debut at the Legend Boucles, there is another driver who quite simply made a reputation for himself in Bastogne this year. Harold de Heptine. At the wheel of a Ford Escort Mark II breathed on by advanced motorsport, the fellow, used to the great expanses of Morocco, set an incredible second best time in the 41 kilometers of l'Ardoisière before taking the scratch in Lunch Garden Libremont.
Je ne m'attendais pas à ça et ça fait plaisir parce que ça montre que voilà, j'avais en réserve des talents qui étaient là derrière, donc c'était voilà, impressionnant et j'ai assuré, j'avais un rythme.
Two specialists of the Sunday Forest sections do not feature in the overall top 10, having been forced to retire before the end of the day on Saturday, prior to returning in Rally 2. Starting with Gino Boucles, who took a mischievous pleasure in twirling the Ford Escort Mark I around he shared with Steven Spitals, through to being the quickest in La Royale. Let's take advantage of it for a few moments by going on board alongside Boucles. Just time to see the landscape fly past. All this on board a car dating from 1974. As one of the international rally's best hopes, Pierre-Louis Loubet also found a terrain perfectly suited to his Citroën Visa Mille-Piste Group B and the talent inherited from his father, Yves Loubet. This resulted in the best time in La Mandarine. We should see this fellow again in action soon.
C'était vraiment génial, on s'est régalé. Bon, malheureusement, dans la longue, on s'est fait bloquer, donc on a perdu pas mal de temps et dans la dernière, j'ai crevé. Sinon, sur le reste, c'était vraiment top.
Difficile comme parcours, bien sûr, avec ces conditions hivernales très changeantes.
Ah ouais, c'est sûr que ça fait penser beaucoup au Monte Carlo. Donc c'est quand même, pour l'expérience, c'est quand même sympa.
One of the public's favourites, Marc Duet, made the BMW M3 Group A roar with pleasure in the forest, only to fail at the gates of the overall top 10. A great and beautiful performance. Co-driven by André Lay, Jean-Michel Martin gave himself the means to get the most out of his Porsche 911 in safari mode in Bastogne. As part of the Super Legend class, he concluded the exercise with a 12th overall. As for Florian and Caroline Gipsin, they were first and foremost present to promote the Spa Rally, but as is a tradition at the Legend Boucles, their association remains impressive, resulting in a solid 13th place overall, and with a Mark I Escort that had no chance of going unnoticed. As for Father Christian Gipsin, assisted by his partner Yves Grosjean, he was back in the driving seat of the Opel Corsa A, which brought back many memories for him.
C'est une magnifique épreuve, c'est vraiment une épreuve où allez, je vais dire, la vraie histoire du rallye, avec les assistances qui sont mobiles, des spéciales de grands garçons, franchement c'est une belle épreuve.
Retour au volant de cette Opel Corsa, vous n'aviez pas perdu le mode d'emploi, Christian?
Si, je l'ai cherché, mais je ne l'ai pas encore retrouvé.
Others did not have the chance to reach the finish, like Guillaume Mondron, whose progression ended in a plume of smoke. The overall top 15 of these Legend Boucles Bastogne 2019 was completed by Patrick de Blauwe's Ford Escort Mark II, ahead of the Porsche 911 of the fast Luxembourger Ali Cridel. Nice performance also put in by Jean-Louis Maynard and Jean-André Collard, the latter being the owner of the Dakar Baobab circuit in Senegal, where winter conditions are rather rare. Particularly solid, Benoit Gallard's Peugeot 504 Coupe V6 also made it to the end of the adventure, finding its place in the overall top 20. As one of the virtuosos of the Mark I Escort, Geoffrey Léon each year makes it a point of honour to measure up with the best in the discipline, oscillating between the top 10 and top 20, and was once again the case. Another favourite of the Bastogne public, Fred Rosati's Opel Ascona 400, finally finished in 20th place, not without ensuring its share of the show, and its driver, owner, also discovered something unique.
Super, extraordinaire. C'est des belles spéciales, un enthousiasme avec le public et tout, super, bravo. Bravo Belge, bravo, c'est super.
Parfait, on vous reverra?
Ah ouais, je reviendrai, avec plaisir.
Among the must-see drivers, Christian Glaude, mayor of Bastogne, was once again accompanied by his daughter Anne. It is in 22nd position that the impressive Volvo 144 found its place. The Glaudes can boast of having beaten another bulky Swede, Bernard Lamy's version 242, which is just as unmissable. After a rather violent elimination last year, Félix Marie and Jehan Félix Brasseur this time made it to the finish with their usual Porsche 911, a beautiful revenge and the promise of undying return. Coming from France with this excellent Ford Escort Mark II, Jean-Jacques Julien had the pleasure of avoiding major problems, which allowed him to get to know the renowned forest sections of the Legend Book. Present at the finish also for this very beautiful Alfa Romeo GTV6, paying tribute to the 101st Airborne, which contributed to the liberation of Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge, a car entered by the locals Dimitri van Hove and Lionel Windenhausen. As for the king of custom motorcycles, Kruger, he took the 120 horses of his first-generation Golf to the finish podium, happily fulfilling his mission. Fascinated by drift-style driving, the guy clearly put pedal to the metal and made it there.
Avec une petite auto, et vu les conditions, on a fait signer des temps plus qu'honorables, je pense. On a joué un petit peu de malchance dans les éoliennes hier parce qu'on a été bloqué par un accident et on a pris le temps complet. Donc on a perdu 25 places. Malheureusement, ce n'est pas de notre faute, mais c'est un fait de course. Donc ça fait partie de la course. Là-dessus, bon, je veux dire, on n'a pas pris un petit coup au moral, mais on s'est dit on va faire du spectacle, un maximum de glisse, amuser le public et voilà. Donc un excellent week-end.
Worth noting the presence in the top 30 of another German, Thomas Schulz, with a Ford Escort Mark II, just ahead of the Peugeot 205 GTI of Didier Monin. As for Xavier Daff, chief editor of the Moniteur Automobile, and Dominique Drico, journalist of Classic 21, they honoured the omnipresence of the media by covering the distance in the cockpit of a Datsun Violet Group 2 that Bruno Thierry had driven in the past. At the end of a particularly intense weekend, which saw the Royal Automobile Club of Spa manage the progression, at times tricky, of more than 300 cars, the Legend Boucles Bastogne 2019 ended in widespread good humour under the marquee. Following on from Thierry Neuville and Brian Bouffier, Mikko Hirvonen also made the World Rally Championship circle of drivers proud. And the least one can say is that the Finns' presence on the international scene is prestigious. Now heading for 2020, with a 15th edition of the Boucles in a legend version that is already looking very promising.